So many finals performances that will never be forgotten here on the grandest stage in basketball.
San Antonio was up 29. Second half of Game 4. Victor Wembanyama was doing what he'd done all series, protecting the rim, closing every driving lane, shrinking the paint down to nothing. The Spurs were moving toward tying the finals at 2 games apiece. At that point, New York was simply trying to stop the game from slipping away. Then Jalen Brunson started calling the same action, over and over. Not a new play, the same screen New York had been running since Game 1, the one that had barely worked all series. Except this time, it worked. New York erased the deficit. On the possession that decided the game, Wembanyama switched onto Brunson and got pulled away from the rim. Brunson missed. OG Anunoby tipped it in with 1.2 seconds left. Knicks win. Largest comeback in NBA Finals history.
Brunson gets it, fires up a 3. Shot no good, the chip is gone!
So what changed? How did a 6'2" guard force the league's best defender into a decision New York had been chasing all series? If you want the full breakdown of how this series actually turned, hit subscribe. This channel exists to find the real story behind moments like this one. To understand why Wembanyama was standing on the perimeter when the game was decided, you have to go back to the start of the series, back when New York was winning and still hadn't solved anything. One of them had spent his whole career answering a question nobody asked him. Brunson was 6'2", drafted 33rd overall, the kind of player the league files under solid rotation piece, and moves on. By 2026, he was New York's captain, walking into the finals as the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. The other had spent his whole career being the guy scouts had been building an entire era around since he was 15. Wembanyama was 7'4" with a guard's mobility, the first overall pick, and the reigning unanimous Defensive Player of the Year. He'd just helped carry San Antonio to a stage few expected them to reach this soon. New York was chasing its first title since 1973. This was also a rematch of the 1999 finals, the last time these two franchises had shared this stage. The scoreboard would suggest New York solved this matchup early. The film had Wembanyama standing in the wrong place at exactly the right time.
Victor Wembanyama says he's officially been cleared to return after dealing with a blood clot in his shoulder.
Wembanyama had already had a remarkable year before the finals started. He'd come back from a blood clot diagnosis that ended his previous season. He helped push San Antonio from 34 wins to 62. He was the Defensive Player of the Year, unanimously. What made him different wasn't just size, it was range. He could protect the rim on one possession, then recover in time to contest a shooter 25 feet away on the next. He could switch onto a guard and often hold his own off the dribble. If a teammate blew an assignment, Wembanyama was usually the one who cleaned it up. Brunson didn't have any of that. What he had was footwork, strength through contact, the ability to change pace at the exact moment a defender committed to a decision. That contrast was the whole problem. Drive, and Wembanyama is waiting. Pull up, and his length is still in the shot. Pass early, and the rest of the defense closes in anyway. Avoid him completely, and every other Spur gets more aggressive. New York didn't walk into this series with an answer. They walked in with a question. And the answer they'd eventually find wouldn't be about beating Wembanyama at all. Game 1 went to New York, 105-95. Brunson scored 30 and closed it out. Game 2 got uglier. San Antonio repeatedly blitzed Brunson's pick and rolls, trying to get the ball out of his hands before he could use them. The pressure helped hold Brunson to just 7 for 25 shooting, but his gravity, the attention he pulled just by having the ball, was still dragging defenders out of position. That was enough. New York survived, 105-104. Buried in that ugly shooting night was the real clue. New York had started using Wembanyama's own man as Brunson's screener, forcing Wembanyama himself into the action. San Antonio could switch him onto Brunson, blitz the ball away, or keep him back in a drop. Whichever they picked, the action hadn't found its target yet. New York was 2-0, and the one weapon they needed most was still misfiring. Game 3 is where San Antonio adjusted first. They widened their spacing, pulled Knicks defenders farther from the paint, gave Wembanyama cleaner catches as a roller. He scored 32 on 11 for 18 shooting, adding 8 rebounds, 6 assists, and 3 blocks. Brunson matched him with 32 of his own. It didn't matter. San Antonio won. 115 to 111, ending New York's 13-game winning streak. The series was 2-1. Wembanyama wasn't just a problem waiting to be solved anymore. He was solving New York back. Brunson's whole career had been built on people deciding what he couldn't become. Too small, drafted too late, never the best player on a real contender. So when did you first realize he was more than an underrated guard? Drop your answer below, and subscribe, because what came next didn't start with a highlight. It started with José Alvarado becoming the second screener. 2 nights later, San Antonio would lead by 29. And before New York could complete the greatest comeback in finals history, they had to solve a counter hidden inside their own play. Here's the part that got buried under the highlights. New York's action, using Wembanyama's man to screen for Brunson, had produced almost nothing through 3 games. Just 22 points on 30 tracked chances. One of San Antonio's answers was the pre-switch. Before the screen even arrived, another Spurs defender could take Karl Anthony Towns, allowing Wembanyama to stay near the rim. New York's counter wasn't a harder screen. It was a different screener. Towns would clear out immediately after the pre-switch. Before San Antonio could reset, José Alvarado stepped in as a second screener, forcing Wembanyama into the play a half-second later than the Spurs wanted. That half-second was enough. Brunson could attack whoever the switch left behind, or find whichever rotation broke down next. The target wasn't always Wembanyama. It was often the confusion that showed up right after he got involved. In Game 4, that same action produced 34 points on 23 chances, more than double the efficiency. Brunson and Alvarado, who hadn't shared a single playoff minute before that night, outscored San Antonio by 21 points in just over 12 minutes together. New York had the answer on film. Now they had to run it down 29. San Antonio's lead reached 29 in the third quarter. New York kept calling the same actions anyway. Brunson attacked switches with crossovers, hesitation moves, sudden changes of direction, daring Wembanyama to stay in front of him rather than trying to outmuscle him. Often, when Wembanyama got pulled into the action, someone opened up on the weak side. Anunoby started converting from the corner. Alvarado attacked closeouts. Brunson buried a pull-up 3 right over Wembanyama's arm. The deficit kept shrinking. Brunson finished with 36 points and 7 assists. Anunoby scored 33. On the final possession, Wembanyama switched onto Brunson. De'Aaron Fox rotated to help off Anunoby. Brunson missed, but the miss mattered less than where everyone was standing. Wembanyama was outside the paint, out of rebounding position. Anunoby tipped the ball in with 1.2 seconds left. Knicks win, 107-106, the largest comeback in finals history. Afterward, Wembanyama pushed back publicly. He said he didn't think the pick and roll was the reason San Antonio lost that game. He wasn't entirely wrong. Missed shots, rebounding, late game execution all mattered too. But the Spurs had now seen New York's answer repeatedly in the game's biggest moments, with a championship still in reach. Heading into Game 5, the question wasn't whether the adjustment existed, it was whether it would work again. Game 5 opened with Wembanyama controlling the paint again, blocking shots, cleaning the glass, helping San Antonio build a 16-point lead. Towns picked up early foul trouble and fouled out with just 2 points. New York shot a miserable 35.6% as a team. For most of the night, the Game 4 blueprint wasn't producing the same easy openings. So Brunson changed the method. He stopped relying on the space the screening actions created. He started manufacturing his own stop-start dribbling, hesitations, floaters over the top, shots pulled purely out of footwork with the clock running down. With 6:28 left, he changed pace, found just enough separation, and scored. Then he kept scoring. 13 straight points for New York. The Knicks outscored San Antonio 21-7 over the final 8-21. Brunson finished with 45. Wembanyama put up 19 points, 14 rebounds, and 5 blocks, dominant to the final buzzer, and it wasn't enough. Knicks win, 94-90. Series, 4-1. Brunson, unanimous Finals MVP. New York's first championship since 1973. So what did solving Wembanyama actually mean? Not making him disappear. He never did. It meant Brunson kept finding the next decision. When Wembanyama switched, Brunson attacked his balance. When San Antonio blitzed, he let the ball go early. When Wembanyama got pulled outside, New York attacked the space behind him. And when none of that was there, Brunson made the hard shot himself. Brunson later had surgery on his left wrist, with the Knicks expecting him back for their title defense. Wembanyama called the loss the biggest lesson of his life, then signed a long-term extension to stay in San Antonio through 2031-32. The defeat didn't end anything for the Spurs. It gave their franchise player his first real lesson on this stage. Jalen Brunson didn't solve Victor Wembanyama by making him disappear. Wembanyama blocked shots, controlled the paint, and forced New York into hard possessions all series long. What Brunson solved were the decisions around him: when to attack, when to give the ball up, when to pull the league's best defender away from the rim, and when to punish whoever got left behind to cover for him. For most of this series, the tallest player on the floor changed what everyone else believed was possible. But in the moments that decided the championship, it was the smallest star on the court who controlled where the giant had to stand. That's the story this series actually told. Wembanyama will almost certainly come back with another answer. Whether Brunson's solution still works the next time they meet is the question that gets to hang over both of their careers until it happens. If you have your own read on the turning point of this series, drop it in the comments. And if you want more stories about the decisions that actually change basketball history, subscribe. There's another one coming soon.